Well, welcome back, everybody. You're probably wondering where I've been. I've had a lot of questions about the old Halolight TV. You know, what's going on with it? What's the latest? Well, I'm fixing to tell you. Murphy has decided to take up, or it seems he's decided to take up permanent residence inside this television. The brightness pot right here has crapped out on us. Now, this is the brightness pot. This is a gang triple pot. This is the brightness, this is the volume, and this last one at the back is the on-off switch. What happens is it's got a dead spot in it all of a sudden. When I turn up the brightness, the TV goes bang. That's it. It's gone. The picture disappears. Then you crank it back, and it'll come on for just an instant, and then disappear again. And if I play with it just to get it just right, a little sweet spot there, the picture will come on, but then within just a few seconds, it'll just slowly fade to black. Well, I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. This is the video I sent Brendan, and then I'll come back and tell you what he said we have to do, which I already knew. I knew he was going to tell me that, but I already knew it. But anyway, here's the video I sent to Brendan. Well, as usual, we have experienced another problem. I was just getting ready to do the sync pulse adjustment, and for some reason our brightness pot has developed a dead spot. I'll be cranking, because I was supposed to crank up the brightness and crank down the contrast, and when I crank up the brightness, the picture would like appear, then it would go out, then appear, and then go out. So I've got the multimeter on, and this is what happens when I crank it up. We got us a dead spot. We'll crank it down. There it is, dead. Come back up. Another dead spot. Dead again. Let me switch it to the other spot over here. Get a good bite there. Okay, here we go again. Crank it up. There it is. It goes dead on me when I crank it down, 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 about halfway. Boom, there it goes. Let me go ahead and spray it, see what happens. Well, it didn't do any good. That's a 1 meg pot. I'm going to go ahead and crank it up here, and you'll see it flash. There it goes, in and out. Oh, wonderful. What do we do now? All right, for the newbies out there, this is when you got to have, you got to have a lot of guts. You got to say, man, I'm going to have to remove the wires. Don't remove them all, just the ones that are necessary to free it from the chassis. Then I'm going to have to take the nut off here, remove this thing, and we're going to have to disassemble this front pot. Ooh, if you haven't got any guts, find another hobby, guys. You're going to need it for this type of thing. And we're going to go ahead and tear it apart and see what's in there. It'd be just my luck, What we're going to have there is a wiper, is a slider. I'm going to show you right here what we got. We'll probably find a thing in there that looks like that. And the wiper will be here in the middle with it attached to the shaft. And the wiper will go over here, and it slides around on this piece of carbon. Let me get this light out of the way so you can see a little bit better. Yeah, this will all be black carbon. It's a resistive carbon, and the wiper slides around it, back and forth. But if after a while, they wear really thin, you can't do anything about them, or they'll get a crack in them. What do you do about that? Sometimes you get multiple cracks. So I won't know, and sometimes it's just the wiper doesn't have quite the pressure it needs to press against that carbon track. Hopefully the carbon will be good, and it's just a matter of cleaning the wiper. Now I've already sprayed it all out on the inside. I sprayed it out and put a little WD-40 in there to try to get things a little better. Didn't work at all. Nothing has sufficed, so it's going to have to come apart. So that's our next step. One more thing before I tear it apart, I made sure to make a nice little drawing of this thing and what wires went where. That'll save me from having to go to the schematic and figure it all out. I don't need the extra headaches. Again, this is your on-off switch, this is your volume control, and this is your brightness control. With the aid of my trusty Hacko FR300, I was able to go ahead and unsolder everything, and this gang pot is out. Now what I have to do is bend these tabs on the front. Let me see if I can lean it up here and kind of show you. I have to bend open these tabs. There's one right there. There's another one back there, and there's two on the other side, and then this front piece will lift out. Fortunately, it's the pot on, at the very beginning. If it was the one in the middle, we'd have a real problem. But we'll see what happens when I open that thing up. Wish me luck on this one.
Reason the video cut off and the camera turned off, but I did save the video, so you can go back to the last video. And
right now, I've been sitting here watching all of the latest videos put up by Ramon Ortiz about his Lafayette reel-to-reel. This is kind of interesting, It does not really involve, repair, except small repairs, but he covers the way to clean something. Many times you get a piece of electronic equipment, and all it needs is a good cleaning. And he demonstrates that here, how to take your time, how to don't get frustrated, just get you a cup of coffee, and just, some Q-tips and some rags and some spray, and just clean from top to bottom. Eventually you'll get to, you'll really enjoy it. You'll say, I can fix this thing probably by just cleaning it. I don't have to worry about anything else. Just clean her up. So he's done an excellent job here of demonstrating it. This is part 5. And I waited until he got like 4 or 5 videos, and then I watched them all at once. It's been very entertaining, Ramon. Good deal. Alright, it's back to the ganged pot problem here. I went ahead and took alcohol and a brush and cleaned all the contacts, every contact on there, after I removed all the wires. Just cleaned them all, got all that old flux off there, fixed it up nice and clean, so when it comes time to put back in, I don't have to sit there and struggle, I got to clean this, clean that, so the solder will stick and all that. Just take your time, and get all that old nasty flux off of there. Clean every contact to include, in this case, the switch contacts are on the back. Got them nice and clean also. In the spirit of Ramon, we go clean it all, Anyway, I've loosened the tabs right here. I told you there were 4 tabs. Actually, there was 5. There was 2 on each side and 1 at the bottom. And I went ahead, the way I take these tabs and pull them up, or bend them up so they don't get broken. You want to be very careful. You only get about, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get 2 shots at those tabs. Open, bend them straight and then put them back. After that, the odds are almost 100% you're gonna pop one off if you have to bend it up again. So I always take this kind of, they're called flush cutters. Okay, these are called flush cutters. It's just a small little set of flush cutters. You can get them in all kinds of shapes and colors. It's blurry right now a little bit because I've got it too close. And I just kind of take these flush cutters. Let me show you how I use it. As soon as we get a little bit of clarity here, let me back up a little bit. It's probably a little bit too close. And I take those little flush cutters and I catch the edge of, because this thing here is flattened down. It's flattened down flat against this metal right here. Little dog ear. I take the old flush cutters and I'll wind up. Sometimes I have to put them in an angle. Sometimes I'm able to get it entirely flat. Catch it underneath the edge of the dog ear and just bend it up enough to where it's maybe 1/4 of the way straight. Okay, you don't have to straighten it all the way up with the flush cutters. It's just a rocking motion. Once you get underneath the edge of it, you just kind of rock your flush cutter up a little bit. Then after you go ahead and get it to where it's no longer touching the surface of the metal that it was bent against. Then you can take a pair of duckbill pliers or a pair of needle nose and just kind of straighten it out, okay? And that when you get all done, that's what you have. You have 4 little, got your little dog ears straight up in the air, see them? Yeah, easy can do, but like I said, you're only going to get about 2 shots at that, so make sure whatever you're going to fix, you fix it the first time and avoid all the future headaches. If they start popping off of there, you got yourself a real problem. Alright, now I've got everything loose. This outside shaft does not move. This inside shaft moves inside of it, and then this volume control shaft moves inside of that, each one connected to these pots down inside. So with everything loose, I should be able to go ahead and take this by my hand and pull it out, separate the thing like that. Now I'm not going to do that on camera because I want to be able to be looking down in there to make sure I don't break anything in the process. Once I get it, separated, I'll come back. Alright, this is what we've got. I haven't slid it all the way off. Both this and this slide along the shaft. This shaft right here, okay? And I'll take it all the way off here in a second. This is a piece of plastic. On the other side of the piece of plastic is the slider. Okay, it's a double slider. Yeah, it's a double slider. Let me get it focused here real good for you. Okay. Let me see if I can get this right now. There's one slider right there facing that direction, and there's another slider there facing this direction. And it looks like we might even have a couple more back here. One here and one there. Or these are just tension sliders and these are the actual contact sliders. Who knows? Just know that it moves around this black ring I was telling you about, right down in there. Where are you? Right there. See that black ring? All right, let's get it off and take a closer look at it. All right, once again, there's the carbon track. It's very thin, goes around in a circle. I don't see any cracks, fortunately, but I haven't cleaned it with alcohol yet. But sometimes these things are so thin and so cracked, you open them up and the entire, just all this black stuff just falls out. When that happens, I don't know. I've had it happen. It can be real bad if you cannot find another one. This is the other part. And like I said, the slider appears to be these two fingers right here and right here. And I'll go ahead and clean those babies up with alcohol also. So we'll see what happens. Sometimes the tension is a little bad. You got to kind of like lift these up a little bit to where you have better contact against this this track. And some people say, "Oh my God, I wouldn't want to take that thing apart." Why not? Doesn't work now. What's the worst thing that can happen when you get done? It doesn't work again? Not a problem, okay? Don't ever be all excited just about taking stuff, and nervous and everything. Just gently go at it, gently, gently, gently. Remember, I told you we had a shaft inside of a shaft. That's all there is to it. And inside of a shaft, okay? Not a problem. Everything, this thing here is secured to that shaft. This one here is secured to that shaft. No problem. So let's go ahead and clean it up and see what happens. Alright, everything's been cleaned up with the old alcohol brush and alcohol. I cleaned everything to include inside the body of the pot. And I ran this long Q-tip I have here down through the barrel. And ran it down through this one here as well. Got all that old nasty grease out of there. And I will have to pick up some non-conductive grease tomorrow and re-grease the shaft a little bit and put a little bit on the slider, which would be over here. Now I noticed that the slider, one of the sliders was lower than the other. And what I mean by lower, I'm talking about they were not even. See how they're even now? They're even across. The inside slider was lower. Let me see if you can see this. I want you to be able to see this. There's two sliders in there. Come on, baby, focus in now. There's two sliders in there, one on the inside and one on the outside. Get a light over here, maybe this will help you see it. Anyway, I went ahead and lift it up a little bit where you can see it a little better. I want you to see, okay, there you go. Now you can see the two sliders, one on top of another. The inside one was lower than the outside one, so I held my thumb against the brass area right here, held my thumbnail against there, then just took this and kind of lifted it up and lifted it up and lifted it up gently, little bit at a time, until I finally got it to where they're both even. They're both at the same height instead of one being lower. Now, is that going to fix it? I have no idea. I won't know until I get it back together. I get the grease in it. I'm going to put it back together and I'm going to hold it together with my finger. And while I test it, I'm not going to put it in there and bend the tabs over and then find out, oop, it's still bad. Well, we need to take it back apart again. Don't want to do that. We're going to put everything back together, hold it together with my finger, test it, see what happens. That'll be the next thing. Well, lucky us. Lucky us. I held this thing together with my thumb, kind of squeezed it together. See, it kind of has a tendency to come apart there. I squeezed it together, connected an alligator clips, to the center and to both ends, one at a time, and then turned the shaft, and guess what? Smooth as silk. No more dead spots. I'll show you this after I get it all back together. I just can't do it with one hand here. I don't want to risk damaging any of these contacts or anything while I'm sitting here trying to turn it on camera. I'll show it to you after we get it all back together. Right now I'm going to take some of this bulb grease that that you use it to put around bulbs in cars. I bought this at a auto parts store. It's kind of really slick and greasy, and I was going to, like I told you earlier, I was going to put it on the carbon track on the inside, just a very light coat. But I decided, maybe I better talk to Brendan about this. I'm no expert on these pots. I've only torn apart, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. I've been kind of fortunate in that respect. Normally I just replace them, because I can get them on radio days and places like that. But this one you can't. Some pots are special. They have certain ways they're made that you just can't do that. So we got lucky on this one. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I do have to put a little grease behind here, okay, where it butts up against the inside of the pot right there. It's got to have a little bit of grease down in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and grease the shaft. And old Brendan said, why bother putting grease on the track, And then I did a little extra reading also. And it becomes a dust collector if you put a little thin film on that carbon or on the slider itself. It does collect dust, and it will cause a problem. So I decided, well, we'll just leave it dry. We're not going to be using it that much anyway once I get it set. And it's not like the TV is going to be played every day, so it should last a long time. But I am going to grease the old shaft and get it back together. So let's get that done. Alright, a thin coat of grease is all I put on the shafts. You didn't have to, you don't want to glob it on and gook it on. And then after I had all the grease put on, I pushed it back together, held it together again with my fingers, and tested it with the multimeter, and again it tested good. So I went ahead and bent down the tabs, and I now have it hooked back up for the final check. Let's see what we get. I'm going to go ahead and just turn this shaft, and let me get this baby over here where we can see what's going on. Before we had that dead spot, remember? Let's go ahead and turn it and see what happens. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Come on, baby, all the way up. Don't give me any problems. Ooh, that looks nice. Look at that. That's the way a pot's supposed to look, okay? It's a 1 meg pot, but it's a little bit higher. But that's okay. Not going to worry about it. Nothing I can do about it anyway. It's not like I can run out and get one that will work on the shaft. Okay, let's go ahead and move this clip to the other side now. This baby over here. Move this one over here away from it. Oh my goodness, come on already. There we go. Alright, let's turn the shaft the other way and see what happens. We've got to test both halves of this thing, Nice, 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 nice. Okay, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, it's good. We'll now stick her back in. Well, there we go. Everything is back in. And let's get it over and hook it up to the TV and see if we can generate a small explosion. Well, here she is. I've got everything hooked back up with all the extender cables. And you're going to see it right along with me. It'll take a few seconds for this thing to kind of warm up. Let's see if our tubes are coming on. Yep, our tubes are lighting up. Alright, now let's see if we get any. I'm going to turn the brightness all the way down on this. We'll give it a few seconds. It takes about, I don't know why this particular TV takes a little longer to come on. But I checked around on YouTube videos and a few other things. and other TVs from this era seem to take that long now. I don't know if it's just a matter of age. Let's see what happens here. Oh, there, look at there. Up, down. Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we have fixed this TV. Oh, that's really nice. Boy, and much brighter now than it was before. Look at that. Okay, we're going to call this video a wrap. We'll call it a fix and a wrap. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. My son and I are going to go somewhere, and I'll be returning in early September, and we'll pick this thing back up. The next thing we have to do is make a few adjustments on the automatic gain control and a few other things, and we'll do that in the next video. So hopefully everybody... Oh, did she fade out of me? Oh, she's fading out of me again, you dirty rat. Let me try this here. Oh, shucks. What's going on here? Let me fiddle fart around with the cables again. Well, I let it cool down for a few minutes and fired it back up. Let's see if we got any brightness at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Can you believe that? Do you even get a blink? Nothing at all. Well, I let it cool down and turned it back on, and it's doing the same thing it did before. See it flashing in and out. Guess what? More work is needed. So we're going to go ahead and call this one quits again. And remind you one more time that I will be gone for a couple of weeks. And when I get back, I may have another video to give you about where I've been. So until then, I hope you learned nothing. Until then, this is John.